and welcome to More Geek Than Gay. What is more geek than gay? Well, if you're more excited when you discover that there's a new color of kryptonite than you are at discovering who America's next top model is, you very well may be more geek than gay. You know, originally for that intro thing, I was going to be saying if you're more excited about discovering a new color of kryptonite than you are about discovering who RuPaul's next Drag Race superstar is, then you might be more geek than gay. But let's be honest, who the hell doesn't get excited about finding out who the next Drag Race superstar is? Okay, so that said, first let's lead off with a couple little things. I know this is a little bit late. In many ways, it's a week late. I had intended on it being a weekly thing. I still intend on it being a weekly thing, but I did a whole bunch of upgrades to my computer, and it just made the whole a hassle last weekend. And then work came along, and then this weekend I was doing it, and I didn't come back to the special magic room to do this, and I've discovered something. When I've blamed it on the acoustics, blamed the other microphones that I've used in the past on the acoustics in other rooms, but I think actually what it is when I'm in this room, I'm kind of secluded away from everyone, and I don't even realize how loud I'm talking. So I just talk. When I'm in other rooms, I talk much more quietly so I don't disturb people. Well, what that means is that this weekend, when I did a whole bunch of recording for this podcast, I did it in other rooms, and I tried not to disturb people, and in the effort of trying not to disturb people, I created a lot of video and audio. Well, a lot of video with virtually no audio, and when it comes down to just being audio, that means that there's almost nothing there. You would have had to have cranked up your volume all the way and still went, "What? What's he saying? I can't hear him. Murray, can you hear him? I can't hear him." So, yes, I think that there are people who have people in their lives named Murray listening to me. That's how I am. So I had to redo it again. This is the redone again moment. It's not the originally intended podcast because I'm having to just quickly recast this. It's probably going to be a little bit shorter of a podcast than what I normally do. I am going to be aiming for around about an hour, so be planning on that. It's just that every once in a while they'll have to be shorter. This is going to be one of those shorter ones because unfortunately I don't have the time to try to get out this week's podcast and match up all the audio with everything else that was going on. I'll have to wait until this weekend to get that done. So this is a quick redo podcast that will fill in the blanks of what's been going on. There, that said, hi, how you all doing? Hope everyone's having a very good week. And has been having a very good last 2 weeks. Like I said, sorry, wasn't here, but I'm here now. Back in school after the break, hating my class. That's as much as I'm going to go into that. Work's been fine, work's been slow, but work's been fine. It pays the bills. So that's as much as we need to go about that. Joseph is feeling better. That's a good thing. Joseph is feeling he was having a little bit of relapse. About 2 months ago, he had appendicitis with like a weird colon or intestinal thing, and it's led to colitis, and it's led to sepsis, and then the colitis was acting up again, but he seems to be doing better today. So yay. This is me clapping, and this is me doing a golf clap. Civilized. So that's good stuff. This last week we had a meeting for Phoenix Comicon. I'm going to be one of the moderators there again this year. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of, well, actually that's pretty much the whole thing right there. I'm one of the moderators. We had an all departments meeting, and this is going to be where I'm going to tell you guys something. If you want to work as a moderator at the Comic-Con, it's a volunteer position, but you do get to come in for free, work as a moderator. You can request certain panels if you're, or certain activities if you want that time off. No guarantee because I'm not in charge moderator person, but they do try to honor requests. Hey, we're looking for moderators. There's going to be panel moderators. Those are the ones that are on the stage, sitting there, helping keep things rolling along, getting people's questions up to the guests. And then there's also going to be room moderators. Those are the ones that are going to be making sure that that basically all the equipment's working correctly, doing the head counts in the room so that we know which panels have been successful, which panels have not been successful. So if you're like, yay, I like to be up on stage and have people talking to me or looking at me, and realize that when they take pictures, they're going to cut you out of those pictures. Yeah, so don't get too egotistical here. But if you don't mind people staring at you, moderator. If you're more quiet and you still want to help, moderator. Yay, we have an all-encompassing team. We're still doing castings for that. The reason why we're using the term casting is because this isn't really an audition. It's not really an interview. What we're looking for, we're not really trying to turn people away. What we're looking for is having you show up, do a little bit of moderation for us, just a little sample thing so that we can figure out where best to fit you. Okay? You can help us also. There's going to be a little form to fill out where you can put in your information. Just let us help you find a place to be in the whole thing. Okay? That's where I'm going with this. We're looking for moderators. We're trying to have a good, strong moderator team. I know a lot of people out there. Frank, I'm looking at you. You and your people, you guys have a lot of public speaking skills and everything like that. Probably would be good for moderation if any of you are feeling like all geek-tastic. Okay? So now this is the Phoenix Comicon, not to be confused with the, what is it? The Amazing Arizona Comic Con, which is this upcoming Friday, January 17th or something like that, which will be featuring Jim Lee and Stan Lee, and that's about it. They're at the convention center. I cannot speak from experience regarding them. They do have Jim Lee and Stan Lee, and they're at the convention center, so I guess they're getting bigger. But the prices are about the same as the Phoenix Comicon, and Phoenix Comicon, while we don't have Stan Lee this year, did have Stan Lee last year and the year before that, and have pretty much like the main crew and cast for Babylon 5. Going to be having people from Walking Dead showing up. Going to be having Nichelle Nichols and Walter Koenig and Dean Cain, as well as panels on comic books. Many comic book artists are showing up, which I should know the names of right now, and I can't think of the names of any of them, which is sad because the comic books is actually my strong point. Of course, Jenny Koch will be there. I'm sure Yvonne Navarro will be there. There's a whole bunch of authors that I just cannot think of the names of right now that will be there. So seems like for about the same amount of money, you get more bang for your buck at the Phoenix Comicon in May. But if you do have money to spend for both, why not give the Amazing Arizona Comic Con a chance? Let me know how it goes. Tell me if it's worth it. That's actually the big thing. Tell me if it's worth it, because I'm not going to be going this weekend. I have other things I got to do. So, but like I said, Phoenix Comicon, I am hoping to see many of you guys there. People are traveling from all over the country to show up at Phoenix Comicon. It was actually labeled one of the vacation destination cons in the country now. It's actually kind of grown really nicely. So, and as such, we're still getting guests and all that ramped up for this. Stay tuned. I will be letting you know more as more comes in. So, and also, if you're wanting back to this, hate to pound it into the ground, but really, if you're wanting to volunteer at the con, be a moderator, get in touch with me, get in touch with them at Phoenix Comicon, and we can hook you up, okay? Like I said, we're not turning people away unless, like, for some reason, you spontaneously combust into flames or something anytime that someone mentions the word comic book. Okay. Other than that, we're going to find a place for you. That's what our goal is. So, that said, what was it? Oh, watched X-Men First Class again the other day. Forgot how great that movie is. Better than any of the other X-Men movies, and fantastically groovy. And groovy in the best way. Groovy in the way that, like, the Avengers TV show was. Not groovy in the way that Austin Powers is, which, while entertainingly groovy, is not cool groovy. But X-Men First Class, cool groovy. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It explains a lot of stuff that happens in the later movies, or actually earlier movies, the first 3 movies. And in the process, though, well, actually not in the process. It explains a lot of stuff, and if you haven't seen those 3 movies, don't worry. It stands alone very well. What is her name? January Jones, February Jones, something Jones, does a really nice job of being the White Queen. And we get more story of Mystique. We get Charles Xavier, like, walking and being young with hair. We get Magneto, who in certain scenes walking down a hallway, you can just watch it flop back and forth between pant legs, which that's kind of oddly disturbing. Powers are used in really great ways, especially Magneto's. Great use of power for Magneto. Looking forward to the next set of movies coming out, but they're not coming out for such a long time that there's really no reason to talk about them. The Hobbit came out. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say on that. Lord of the Rings trilogy is 10 hours of my life that I'll never get back. Actually, I always say that, and I have to rephrase that. It's about 9 hours of my life that I'll never get back. I remember watching the first Lord of the Rings movie, and contrary to what I actually even anticipated, I was enjoying it. I was like going, oh look, they have a little quest going, they did a little thing, alright. This was a really great movie. I really enjoyed this. I might actually even enjoy the next movie. So, okay, they're doing a little wrap-up thing. That's cool. Okay, so now we're going to, like, they're going to use the Council of the Elves to lead into the next movie. Okay, that's what's happening here. That's how come the movie's still going on, even though the movie just finished. Okay. Wow, they're spending a lot of time with these elves. They're really spending a lot of time with these elves for something that should just be leading into the next movie. Hey, how come they're now walking through a forest for another hour? Just walking. I enjoyed the movie up to the Council of the Elves, After that, that's when we start realizing that this is whole chunks of my life I'll never get back again. Walking through the forest. That's all they do. Walking through the forest, argue, walking through the forest, forest. Ooh, ogres! Walking through the forest. Oh, look, Frodo looks forlorn. Walking through the forest, argue, walking through the forest, ogres, walking through the forest. Hey, where'd Frodo and Samwise go? End of movie. There. I just saved you a whole hour of your life because that's all that happens in the last half of that first Lord of the Rings movie. There's no chance in hell of me going and seeing the stretched out version of The Hobbit, which is sad because The Hobbit is actually the only one of those books I would have been tempted to see the movie of, because it's not mired in its own mythology, it's not bogged down with just loads of crap, even though it does go on for pages describing a hobbit hole. But then they decided to make a book that probably could have been handled in one movie, but maybe two, into three, by adding all this other crap and all these other characters from other sources that people don't even know are part of the whole thing, and blah. God, I hate those hobbits. So, although, speaking of hating hobbits, I was wanting to talk about something really quick, and that is role-playing games. Yeah, those people smell funny, but the idea is that the game is fun. They don't always smell funny, just when they're in crowds at conventions. But sorry, just had to blow some dust off my stuff here. Mainly, I want to talk kind of about the granddaddy of role-playing games, the Dungeons and Dragons thing. I would love to find people to play along with. That's really what it is. I haven't played in years. I can't even remember the last time I played, to be totally honest. I have all the books. Because I like the idea of a role-playing game. A role-playing game, for those of you who have never experienced it, shame on you. A role-playing game is basically just it's kind of like World of Warcraft, except for entertaining. Okay, World of Warcraft doesn't have the nice interaction, to be totally honest. You know, you can say, oh, I have interaction. I talk to other characters on the screen. You don't have the interaction of a real role-playing game going on there. A role-playing game is designed for a whole bunch of people to sit around a table. Everybody's designed their own character to play in whatever environment. Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy environment, but there's also science fiction ones, superhero ones, horror ones. There's even some that are just, like Private Eyes or James Bond. There's a James Bond one, Cthulhu. For those of you without any video, that was me doing Cthulhu noises of tentacles at my mouth. But and there'll be one person who's in charge of kind of guiding your adventure along, and you have some funky dice, you have your character, and go. You have goals that you're trying to set, you're trying to advance your character along, just like how in life you're trying to advance yourself along, and you're just trying to progress. You get to new levels, you get to bigger advantages, bigger challenges. Everything's great. Dungeons and Dragons started out, there was a simple version, and then they went to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and then they realized that they kind of got things confused between the regular and the Advanced, and so they came up with a second edition, and then they realized that they came up with so much stuff for the second edition eventually that some of it contradicted itself, so they came up with a third edition. And then the third edition came along and was going really strong, and then for some reason they just got some sort of wild hair up their ass and put out a fourth edition, which many people don't care for. And they haven't put out anywhere near as much stuff for the fourth edition that I can tell. And now, in almost record time, they're already talking about putting out a 5th edition. Now, first, second, and third edition, if you know what you're doing, you can even borrow from each edition of things that you like. You just create a character, you roll some dice, you play along. 4th edition, they introduced this idea of kind of templates, which was supposed to streamline the thing. It kind of made it almost a video game feeling, because things just automatically, oh, you're a dragon mage, and this is the dragon mage template, and blah blah blah. A lot of people didn't like that. Kind of curious to see what they're going to do with the 5th edition. But all of you people who didn't like 4th edition, I think I found out what the deal is. What it is I think they took a moment to turn Dungeons & Dragons into Tunnels and Trolls, which was the second big role-playing game system out there, which was very streamlined. It has templates. It's been around forever. If I were the makers of Tunnels and Trolls, I'd be really looking at 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons and wondering, hey, do we have a foot to stand on? Now, I know I've gone on a little bit about Dungeons & Dragons here, but it's a fun game and I want to find people. So anyone out there who's interested, let me know. Like I said, I have the books. I got the dice. I got paper. I got pencils. I can get Doritos. And those of you who don't think you'd be interested, realize that it's already part of main culture. Okay, there's comic strips out there. If you haven't had a chance, Order of the Stick is hilarious. It's a great little webcomic based on the idea of a fantasy world that kind of runs by the rules of Dungeons & Dragons. Then you also have Knights of the Dinner Table, which is a strip that came out about people playing those games, which the game that they play isn't Dungeons & Dragons, it's called Hackmaster, because they're hacking monsters, which in turn appears to have been based on 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons. Someone got permission to put out a Hackmaster game based on 2nd editions Dungeons & Dragons, except for a little bit lighter in tone periodically. And then it's diverged from that a little bit, so oddly enough, a strip that was based on Dungeons & Dragons has now spawned its own separate role-playing system. Big Bang Theory, they've played that stuff. They've gone both World of Warcraft, which, by the way, don't have any issues with World of Warcraft. So save yourself any sort of... Not saying anything bad about that. But they also have played the other, and it's much more social. It really is. Unless you're going to... Even if you get everybody together for a World of Warcraft campaign, you're all sitting there staring at a screen watching everything happen instead of actually interacting with each other directly. Dungeons & Dragons, you're interacting with each other directly. Okay? It's just like playing like Monopoly, except for with kobolds and swords. Futurama, one of my favorite moments on Futurama was when when little Nibbler was sick and they took him to the alien veterinarian, and there's a robot there who's trying to check out with his pet, and his pet is a rust monster from Dungeons & Dragons. And the robot actually is a little bit rusty himself. Oh, but, you know, sometimes, even if you're allergic to your pet, you just got to take care of it. They've also used beholders as guards. So Dungeons & Dragons has gotten a little bit of everywhere. So just embrace it and give it a chance someday. Find yourself some people that you think would be cool to play with. That's the big trick. If you would like to kind of get an idea of the start of how it would kind of play out a little bit, there is a podcast out there called, I think it's called Drunks and Dragons. It is available on iTunes. Very entertaining. Whole bunch of people just trying to kind of figure out how to play the game as they go along. There's another podcast game, but it wasn't any. It was too far along. That's just basically where I'll sit with that. But Drunks and Dragons, that's a group of people who just enjoy each other's company playing a fun game. And there you go. Speaking of podcasts, my all-time favorite podcast has gone on hiatus for a moment. Patrick of Scream Queens he's been just like trooping through all this crap in his life, and he decided he needed to take some time off. Cannot blame him. Definitely cannot blame him, but please come back to us soon, Patrick. In the meantime, I work at a job where I can listen to about 4 to 7 hours worth of podcasts a day. Okay, I'm basically just working with filing paperwork. I can also listen to music, but I am open to suggestions. Anything that's fun. It can be informative, but it has to be kind of presented in a light, entertaining way. It can't be too heavy. Like, I tried listening to some books, and when I'm working with the filings, I pay just enough attention to what I'm doing on the computer screen to sometimes miss what's happening on the story. I was listening to Scream Queens. I've been listening to Satasphere, but I don't know where his next episode is. He's been taking forever to produce that. Ask Me Another One from NPR has been entertaining me. Drunks and Dragons. Greg Proop's Smartest Man in the World. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it's that bad. Even though I'm still it's that bad. Even though I'm convinced that those guys are idiots, they've been very entertaining idiots. They seem like very amiable people. So I listen to it for them, not necessarily their viewpoint on movies. Things like that. But again, very much open to anything new out there. Skeptics with a K also entertained me, even though sometimes I'm like going, what did he say? Is that Australian? I don't know what he said. Did realize that there apparently are no interesting math podcasts out there. And for those of you who have this issue with mathematics, get over it. Okay, there's no point in being proud of saying, oh, but I can't do math. That's like saying, oh, but I can't walk or breathe. The reason why you can't do math is because somewhere early on you had difficulty with math. Your teacher said, oh yeah, math is hard, and that gave everybody an excuse to never have to do math correctly ever again. Math is the only thing that in this country is socially acceptable to be bad at, even though you should never be bad at it. Okay? If a calculator can do it, you can do it. But that was my little rant. It also would help if math was taught in a better order, because it is taught in a counterintuitive progression. But again, that's my little rant. If you can make an entertaining podcast about, grammar, there's no reason why an entertaining podcast can't be made about mathematics. So I'm going to look into this, because I found one or two that was kind of entertaining, but they also were kind of 5 minutes long each. So, that's about it for me this week. Like I said, this was going to be short. It's a little bit scattered because this was an emergency podcast to take the place of what was supposed to be here. I do have a little thing to point out. Next podcast, which I plan on getting out this weekend, the focus will be women. Women. Okay, sorry. There's a visual there that all you audio people have blissfully not had to see. Any questions? Any comments? Like I said, this is still a work in progress. We're still progressing forward here, so let me know what's working. Let me know if you have any questions, any comments. I'll definitely bring them up next time. I want to thank everybody for actually watching the last podcast. Between the video and the audio, we've got to about 20-25 listeners / viewers, which for just starting out, I'm so incredibly tickled, and I want to thank you all. And I'm hoping that we just keep on. I even have one person who's subscribing. Hopefully we'll just keep on growing here, and I'll keep on getting better. This weekend, like I said, you'll get to see what I originally intended for the podcast. And so thank you. The more that you guys contribute, the better I can get. So yay. Just wanted to, I don't know why this popped in my head, but it's partially because I'm a crochet nerd too, and made a killing at a thrift store the other day. They had like all these great yarns that just were there, and I paid like next to nothing for really expensive yarns, such as this little guy, which is just a little plop of orangey colored yarn. $10. I didn't pay $10, but that's what it would cost you. And if anybody ever wants to know what $40+ yarn looks like, this is it. And if I had paid $40+ for this, I would expect a small Peruvian child to have come with my purchase to untangle this strand and put it into a ball for me. I will say this, it's beautiful yarn. Now, these are vintage, but I do absolutely love these older yarns from like the 70s, early 80s, because they come in colors that you'll never find in nature or anywhere ever again. They almost glow with a sense of artificialness. Love that. Gonna close this out right about now, and like I said, don't even know why I added that last little bit there. It just happened to be something that was next to me, and I meant to bring it up some other way, and I didn't, so I'm bringing it up now. If you're, again, looking for a good cause, check out Joshua Tree. They have a web page. I think it's jtfp.com. They help feed people with, or provide food for people with HIV and AIDS in the community. If you're looking for a good book, check out Jenny Koch. If you're looking for some good Mexican food, check out Bitsy Mamas in Glendale. And if you're looking for some comic books, Samurai Comics over on 7th and Camelback, 7th Street-ish in Camelback. Tell them I sent you, and they'll all just sit there and go, who? So we now finish this out with something I promised my sister that I would, or I told my sister that I wanted to do something for my niece, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find the accompanying music for what I wanted to do, so instead you're going to get to listen to a little frog do it instead. But I hope you enjoy it. It's one of my all-time favorite tunes, even though it is a children's tune. Halfway down the stairs, it's taken from A.A. Milne's When We Were Young. It's presumed that it's Christopher Robin of the Winnie the Pooh stories who sings the song. And I absolutely adore this song. So without any further ado, which I've probably done a couple times already, see you hopefully this weekend. Probably Sunday-ish. That's what we're going to be aiming for. Sunday, Monday. And talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Halfway down the stairs is a stair where I sit. There isn't any other stair quite like it. I'm not at the bottom, I'm not at the top. So this is the stair where I always stop. Halfway up the stairs isn't up and isn't down. It isn't in the nursery, it isn't in the town. And all sorts of funny thoughts run round my head. It isn't really anywhere, it's somewhere else instead. Halfway down the stairs is a stair where I sit. There isn't any other stair quite like it. I'm not at the bottom, I'm not at the top. So this is the stair where I always stop.